Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday service of the North Chapel here in Woodstock, Vermont. It's Sunday, August 23rd, and I'm Chris Bartlett, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you all to this virtual gathering. I can picture many of the faces on the other side of this screen joining together for this Sunday service, and I'm looking forward to the Sunday not too far away when I can greet you face to face, unmasked, and give you a big hug. But this morning, I'd like to offer a special welcome to another group. Over the past 4 months, we've been delighted to see our virtual pews filled with more than 100 people who normally aren't physically present in the beautiful sunlit North Chapel Sanctuary. You're joining us from our local community, from places all over the United States and even from overseas, and we're absolutely delighted that you have found us and would love to get to know you better. So to start the process of turning those distant virtual contacts into more familiar engaged connections, let me offer you a quick introduction to the North Chapel. We trace our roots back to 1786 when a group of 4 prominent Woodstockers broke off from another local church and declared themselves Universalists. They formed a small congregation visited by a circuit preacher who traveled on horseback to 4 churches in this area. His name was Hosea Ballou, and he became one of the founding fathers of Universalism in the United States. Eventually, in 1834, the North Universalist Chapel Society was formed by 23 members. Impressively, by the following year, they had completed construction of the beautiful church building that we now occupy today. While we still ring in our service with the church's Paul Revere bell, we no longer auction off private family pews with doors as a means of fundraising. But while some things have changed, it's likely that the vision and the mission of the North Chapel is quite similar to that guided our founding fathers. We have 3 simple core goals: to nurture the growth and support the needs of our members, to sustain a strong spiritual life within a loving church community, and to have a positive impact on the world around us. Even if you're physically and geographically distant, we'd love to engage you in ways that might support your growth and to have you participate in this loving community. And at the end of the service, Mary Blanton will describe to you how we might connect beyond the Sunday service. But I thought you might be interested also to hear a little about the third element of our mission, to have a positive impact on the world around us. For a little church in a New England village, the North Chapel has an impressive record of creating, nurturing, and spinning out programs and initiatives that have had an enduring impact. In recent decades, it's been the birthplace of Change the World Kids, a remarkable youth-run service organization. It provided much of the driving energy for our local affordable housing. It sponsored 6 orphan kids through 10 years of schooling in Cambodia. It created the active local environmental organization, Sustainable Woodstock. And it's currently in the process of spinning out a series of children and family-oriented programs created through our Strengthening Families, Building Community initiative. In the present moment, what we're proud of is that even under the constraints of the current lockdown, this church community has come together to assume local leadership in taking a stand against racial injustice. In this effort, North Chapel is very fortunate to have Leon as our minister. He's led us through a series of activities that began with a memorial in front of the church, followed by a public vigil on Woodstock Green, and just 10 days ago, a sold-out showing of a John Lewis documentary on the church's back lawn. It's a theme that Leon will revisit in a different way in today's reflection. But enough about us. Let's talk about you. First, thanks so much for joining us today. It would be an absolute pleasure to see you in person if you'd like to join the informal coffee hour that we have every Sunday at 11 a.m. And we'd also love to engage you in any of the other activities that Mary will describe at the end of the service. But in the meantime, it's time to transition to our Sunday service with one of my favorite hymns. It's great for just humming to yourself, or better even yet, to sing out loud in the living room. Please join in the singing of For the Earth Forever Turning.
Good morning. My name is Laura Foley, and today I'd like to read you a poem that I wrote called Gratitude List, and it's a summer poem. Gratitude List. Praise be this morning for sleeping late, the sandy sheets, the ocean air, the midnight storm that blew its waters in. Praise be the morning swim mid-tide, the clear sands underneath our feet, the dogs who leap into the waves, their fur sticky with salt, the ball we throw again and again. Praise be the green tea with honey, the bread we dip in finest olive oil, the eggs we fry. Praise be the reeds, gold and pink in the summer light, the sand between our toes, our swimsuits flapping in the breeze. Thank you.
When I smell the lavender overflowing my small bee garden, built from scrap wood found in the trash, donated by neighbors, I'm reminded how the world keeps on giving, bees sucking in sweetness, how it all goes on buzzing and blooming, whether we take time to notice or not.
Good morning, and good Sunday. I hope that this new day finds you well. The title of this morning's reflection is What Made America Famous. The title has a bit of history to it. It's not a question, really. It's almost a declarative statement shorn of its subject and predicate. It's only part of a sentence. Part of the sentence is missing. Like many things in our world these days, the title is calling on us to bring ourselves to the meaning. Now, all of this talk about sentence structure reminds me of what happened in high school, where we used to diagram sentences in Mr. Ridley's class. I remember walking past my old locker at Manalapan High School in central New Jersey with its combination lock in the hallway across from where we had our advanced biology class. The advanced biology class was being taught by Mr. Perka. Mr. Perka was also the track coach. Shot put was his specialty. He was not a distance runner, he was a stocky man, playful and competitive, but very, very smart. He knew he would have to drill things into our heads, so he came up with these earworm catchphrases that we'd all learn in order to keep the science lab and its equipment clean and functioning. Every class, we'd hear him say one of these sayings or another. To teach us to keep the lab and the surfaces clean, he would say, rub it, scrub it, clean it up, wipe it dry. To protect the microscopes, he would say, low power, barrel down. And then we'd cover them with these fitted plastic covers. It was like a little waterproof but fashionless tea cozy for a very decent microscope. We had good equipment. Mr. Perko was a personality. He was an idiosyncratic man. He was strong and often tactless. He was a little harsh sometimes, but he was almost always emotionally unavailable. We loved him. We loved him, and he knew it. Year after year, he was helpless to keep that from happening. He knew that too. He had an invisible kindness that overwhelmed his more obvious qualities. With strong men, it's often the case that they cannot hide who they actually are. Of strong men, Michelle Obama recently remarked that being president doesn't change who you are, it reveals who you are. Mr. Perka was not a president, but like Barack Obama, he was a very, very strong man. And so it was for the strong man that I knew back in my high school days. His true nature, was revealed in the advanced biology classroom over which he presided across the hallway from my old locker at Manalapan High. Mr. Perka was a wonderful man, Alex Perka. I haven't seen him in 37 years, but I've thought of him. Neither has one of my dearest friends in life, a woman named Joanna Albala. Dr. Joanna Albala. She became a molecular biologist because of him. Dr. Joanna Albala. She used to be Joanna Schneiderman back in the day. Then she married our friend Kenny, but that was ages ago. Kenny is one of the smartest people I've ever known in my life, but not because of Alex Perka. He had a different inspiration. Kenny and Joanna are a brilliant couple, but Kenny is a very different kind of smart than Joe is. Joanna is book smart and she tests well. She was the smartest person in our class, if I remember correctly. Joe and I would write up our lab reports together in my dining room the night before they were due. And my mom would come out and check up on us. She was happy to see us working together. Advanced biology was our favorite class. Joanna liked the subject matter. I just liked the rigor. Kenny's favorite class was called Western Civilization, or Western Civ, as we called it, that was taught by a woman named Emily Varga. She was as much of a personality as Alex Perka was. She had this gesture, this habit of stroking her neck and like showing her teeth when she was teaching. It was a thing that we endlessly and shamelessly and lovingly exaggerated and dramatized in front of her, much to her outward chagrin. She was a fabulous teacher. I hated learning history earlier in my school days until she revealed its logic to me. She was amazing. I took Western Civ on Kenny Albala's recommendation. I would not have taken it on my own, but I'm glad I did. In that class, I really started to think more deeply, and not just because of Emily Varga's brilliance, but because of the brilliance that she inspired in her students. We, her obnoxious students, made a daily practice of leaving her class a little bit wiser than when we had entered it. Each student just a little bit closer to the next. Every classmate just a little bit more appreciative of life. Chris Kyer was with me in Emily Varga's class, if I'm not mistaken. Humble, honest. Chris was very much his own man. He took notes in a hardcover black book filled with lineless pages. He did not use the pages sequentially. He was bound in his writing neither by the ledger lines that weren't there, nor even by the proper orientation of the book. He was not committed to that kind of logic. He was called by a higher authority, and he surrendered to it. Chris Kyer was called by the authority of his own heart's laughter. He still is, and I'm so very glad to call him friend. He was one of the first people who turned me on to this song. I'd heard a lot of Harry Chapin by then, of course. He was famous throughout the 70s, but for other songs. He was famous for singing a song called All My Life's a Circle, Sunrise and Sundown. It's a beautiful song. And he was also famous for a song called Taxi. It was raining hard in Frisco. I needed one more fare to make my night. A lady up ahead waved to flag me down. She got in at the light. That song's lovely too. Most of all, Harry Chapin was famous for a song called Cat's Cradle. But Chris Kyer did not share any of these songs with me. Instead, he said, "Hey, Lee, have you ever heard of a song called What Made America Famous?" And I hadn't. He shared the recording with me. He didn't IM me or send me the MP3 online. He didn't send me the link and ask me to download it from the cloud. He gave me a cassette tape. Cassette tapes were like the Flintstone version of Spotify back in the day. And I took the tape home and I played it on my dad's hi-fi. I played the song and it blew my mind. I loved it. It was kind of brutal, but I fully understood it on a visceral level, even though the song has become to mean much more to me over time. It's deep to me now, even though it was written 46 years ago. Even though it's that old, it doesn't seem to have aged a day. I was 9 years old when it was written. I was 9 years old back then, and I've aged more than a day since. I've aged 16,790 days, to be exact. We all have, if you were alive in 1974. That's what 46 years will do to a person. And Chris Kyer has aged as well, though, like the song, his heart's laughter has not aged today. What's true for Chris Kyer is true for all of us. If we are humble and honest, our laughter is timeless as we choose. I loved first hearing this Harry Chapin song. It starts on a simple G major chord, and it's played over an ambling rhythm that almost skips And the chord suspends itself on the fourth beat of the measure in the introduction. If you really want to know what made America famous, all you have to do is listen to the song. Harry Chapin will just straight up and tell you, it was just 10 things. It was the town, the folks, and the kids. It was the house, the life, and the night. And it was the fire, the scene, and the hope that made America famous. The song starts off so simply. It was the town that made America famous, with the churches full and the kids all gone to hell. 6 traffic lights and 7 cops, and all the streets kept clean. The supermarket and the drugstore, and the bars all doing well. We may know this town. We may just have passed through this town. We may have been born in this town. We may have lived in this town our whole lives. We may live in this town right now. The song proceeds through the next 4 examples of the things that made America famous. The folks that made America famous, the kids, the house, and the life that made America famous. Now, the house that made America famous was unattractive. In Harry Chapin's words, it was a rundown slum, the shame of all the decent folks in town. And we hippies and some welfare cases, crowded families of coal black faces were cramped inside its cracked old boards. The life that made America famous was a rebellious life. And Chapin sang, "We all lived the life that made America famous. The cops would make a point to shadow us around our town, and then we love children put a swastika on the bright red firehouse door. America the beautiful, it makes a body proud." So there was tension, it's fair to say, between the townsfolk, young and old. And through stories and all around town, no one likes being followed, black and white alike. So the song changes keys at this point. It shifts from G major to E minor on the word proud. And the song takes a bend. It turns towards great darkness and great sorrow, great hatred and moral depravity. Chapin sings, "And then came the night that made America famous. Was it carelessness or someone's sick idea of a joke? In the tinderbox trap that we hippies lived in, someone struck a spark. Arson. Someone was, or a group of people were burning down that house that made America famous. I don't know about you, but I say that no one gets to do that. But someone or some group of people tried. He or she or they started a fire that made America famous, and the sirens wailed, and the firemen responded, and the plumber yelled, 'Come on, let's go.' But someone said, 'Don't rush. Don't race. Don't hurry.' That house might not be worth saving." The plumber was astonished at the attitude. He'd never seen this kind of behavior before. He'd never seen such a monstrous thing, the thing they called depraved indifference. It's a horrifying thing to encounter. It's dangerous. It shatters the mind and soul and heart when we're not ready for it. When it breaks us down into silence, we risk a strange and tight imprisonment, isolated and jailed away from who we know and what we love and who we are by formless bars and keyless locking doorways. But when we speak even softly, and when we sing even softly, we can slip the cage entirely. We can toss off the shackles and slough off our imprisonment as if it were an old and moldy coat. This is what the plumber did. The plumber went in alone. As Harry Chapin tells us, he rolled on up in the fire truck and raised the ladder to the ledge. Me and my girl and a couple of kids were clinging like bats to the edge, and we staggered to salvation and collapsed on the street, and I never thought that a fat man's face would ever look so sweet. I shook his hand in the scene that made America famous. Harry Chapin needed to do a little bit more work on the social politics of fatness. I'm thankful that at least he was self-deprecating in his language, but his point was clear. America, if you want to call it that, finds its greatness uncommonly. It always has. America, if you want to call it that. I once met a man from Switzerland at an international conference. He wouldn't call anyone an American. He called people from the United States USers. And he did so for obvious reasons, namely that, geographically speaking, the Americas are home to 2 continents, and that these 2 continents are home to 55 countries and dependent territories. The United States is one of these. The list is really long. It includes Anguilla, Antigua, and Barbuda, which of course counts as one, Argentina, Aruba, the Bahamas, Barbados, Belize, Bermuda, Bolivia, Brazil, Canada, the Caribbean Netherlands, the Caymans, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Cuba, and Curacao. And these are just the ABCs on the list. There are 37 more. But this was not the thing that made this man mad about us. What really irks me, he said, with this half-crazed look on his face, is that there are more than 400 different kinds of cheese in Switzerland, and the one that you call Swiss is Dutch. I laughed. I thought it was funny. He didn't laugh. I understood. I just pray, honestly and humbly, that good people of good faith will find some kind of way to let these kinds of things be funny. We have greater challenges before us. What we choose to call our cheeses is not the issue that broke his heart. Whether or not we choose to respect one another, that was the issue. And we can do a better job of that. The song changes back to G major, and Harry Chapin brings the song to an end. He sings, "I went to sleep with the hope that made America famous, and I had the kind of a dream that maybe they're still trying to teach in school of an America that made America famous." The song moves quickly to a prayer and to a plea. Harry Chapin wants to know if we were out there, if we were listening, if we cared, and if we were even there. And I wanted to tell Harry, yes, we are here. I wanted to say, yes, Harry, we are your living prayer. I want to believe that that's true, but I don't even know if it's possible. Is it possible that we could be the dreams, be the prayers, be the aspirations of others? John Huntly Skrine and Carl Seberg would say, yes, of course it's possible. They've been singing so for years, and so have we. Their song is in our gray hymnal, Singing the Living Tradition, and it's called Rank by Rank. And we sing, though the path be hard and long, still we strive in expectation. Join we now their ageless song, one with them in aspiration. At least in part, we are some small measure of their hope. One in name, they write. One in name, in honor one. Guard we well the crown they won, what they dreamed be ours to do. At least in part, even with all of our contradictions, we are their dreams come true. Bernice Regan-Johnson would say, yes, of course it is possible. She too has been singing so for years, and so have we. Her song is in our teal hymnal, Singing the Living Tradition, and it's called We Are. We sing, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayer. We are our grandfather's dreaming. We are the breath of our ancestors. Of course, such things are possible. How could it be otherwise? Even a former president, Barack Obama, would agree. In a speech that he recently delivered in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, he said, "Last month we lost a giant of American democracy, John Lewis. Some years ago, I sat down with John and a few remaining civil rights leaders, and one of them told me that he never imagined that he would walk into the White House and see a president that looked like his grandson. Then he told me that he had looked it up and that on the very day that I was born, he was marching into a jail cell, trying to end Jim Crow segregation in the South. In very real ways, we are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings. How do we step into the fullness and the great possibility of this? How and from where do we muster the courage to say what needs to be said and to do what needs to be done? I take my inspiration from one of my favorite heroes. Just last week, in her longest speech since she was shot in the head by a gunman in Tucson, Arizona, Congresswoman Gabby Gifford said, "Words once came easily, today I struggle to speak. But I have not lost my voice. America needs all of us to speak out, even when you have to fight to find the words. We are at a crossroads. We can let the shooting continue, or we can act." When I think about what it is that makes this country great, I think about the courage of people like Gabby Giffords, the courage of people who stand up and say and do what they think is right. I think about the hope and the prayer of people like Harry Chapman, artists that give lightness and life and music to our lives. I think about the heart-born laughter of friends like Chris Kyer that I knew from high school, people that I've known my entire life, with whom I can trace my journey. I think about the fact that good people will choose good things moving forward. This is our chance before us to escape the culture wars, to escape the mask wars, to pray and to act for one another's health and well-being, to pray and to act for the best of our American democracy. What makes America great? We do. All of us, no exceptions. May we learn to see ourselves in one another's eyes, no fences in between. When we do, we will be citizens of the world and know true community. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen.
I am a stranger, a wayfaring stranger. 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 I am a stranger, a stranger. I am a stranger. I'm going there to meet my Father. I'm going there no more to roam. I am a stranger away going over Jordan. I am just going over. I am a stranger, a wayfarer, going. I am a stranger, I'm going
Thank you so much for joining us for our Sunday service. It's wonderful to have people from far and near accessing us online. As Chris said, there are many things happening in our North Chapel community. If you don't live in our area, we would love to invite you to access any of our online offerings. We also have in-person, socially distanced opportunities for connection as well. Here is a sample of our offerings. Each week, there are 3 meditation groups and 1 yoga class on Zoom. The Divorce Support Group meets twice a month online. The Amazing Grays meets the second Sunday of each month on Zoom. And please consider supporting our fall fundraiser by purchasing some bulbs. If you live in our area, we would welcome your joining our newly formed walking group. To find out more about these events or anything else that is happening in the North Chapel this week, in the coming weeks, in person or on Zoom, please click on the link following the coffee hour link, which will take you to a list of events happening at the North Chapel. Thank you for coming, and I hope to see you at coffee hour.